them. Yes. Good evening, everyone, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's a pleasure to be seeing all of you. Daniel, you have another 1,200 steps to go. And Cik Siu, nice to see you again this evening. And Hashim, after 2 weeks not seeing you, it's a pleasure. And of course, Guat Ching, I consider my mainstay. Almost every session, he'll be here. So thank you everyone for being here. And this evening, a little bit, the material is a little bit long. So I hope that within the 1.5 hours, we can reach a certain conclusion. First of all, I'd like to welcome you to this session on meaning making, the human adventure. What I'm doing right now is going back down to basics. We've been talking about neurosemantics and all the meta-stating part. It's just that about a month ago, I said, okay, I'm going to go back to the very basics of neurosemantics. So that's why last month we talked about what is neurosemantics. And at the core of semantics, meanings, is the meaning-making process. So that's what we'll be discussing this evening. And for those, and all of you are familiar, this is part of our monthly neurosemantics series. And I am so honored that you are here, and all of you are familiar faces. So I feel really blessed and honored to see you again this evening. In the 60 to 90 minutes together, we'll be discussing on 5 main points. When I looked at the topic itself, there were 11 points. And I said, I'm not going to be able to cover that in 60 minutes. So I said, okay, I'll just take the 5 points. Hopefully next week we can cover the rest. The first one is the introduction into meaning making. Second point is how meaning works. The third point are the beginning stages of how we create meaning. The fourth point is on the cognitive stages of making meaning. And the fifth point is cognitive coping. And as you are familiar, I will pause after every point because I want to invite you to ask questions or comments. So go ahead. If you have any questions, be ready with those questions after each and every point that I cover. Now, as usual, I just need to make this disclosure that my style is to be light and humorous. So if I laugh or smile, I'm never laughing at you, but at our silly human qualities. My purpose is to lighten things up, reduce being serious, and be more real. So with that said, I would just like to move into the introduction. Topic. And before I do that, I'd like to take note of the point that Cik Siu has mentioned, that his internet connection is not so good. So he switched off his camera. And I would like to also mention that to each and every one of you, if you feel that it's more comfortable for you to switch off camera, go ahead. It's just that I'll be looking at my own face. However, I'm quite familiar with that face. Okay, so I'd like to welcome Mark, who's just joined us. Mark, are you? Can you hear me all right? Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you.
Good to see you, and you're wearing a Selangor T-shirt. Is that part of your swimming team?
Yeah, that's part of the swimming team. Yeah. Yes.
Good.
We're happy that we hope to be able to start soon. So fingers crossed. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, we hope we'll be able to do that. Yeah.
And also the meeting of Coca-Cola.
Wonderful. And also welcome, Dr. Anwar. It's a pleasure seeing you as well. Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mazuki.
Thank you. Right.
Not putting on my spotlight because it's too bright for my eyes.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So are you okay there?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Busy, but good. Nothing's happening.
Yes. So let's get started with the introduction to meaning making. In neurosemantics, art of making, constructing, inventing, and construing meaning is the human adventure par excellence. It is what we all do. It is inescapable and inevitable. It is an adventure because it is about discovery, learning, invention, evaluation, experimentation, and refining. In neurosemantics, this is our primary focus. Why is meaning making the essence of human adventure? Because by nature and birth, by genetics and neurology, we don't know what anything means. I'll repeat that. We don't know what anything means by nature and birth. Innately, we don't know what anything is, what it does, how it works, what it leads to, its value and importance, or how to cope with it. In this, we are without the kind of instincts that animals have. In the place of instincts, the unique human adventure is that of constructing our meanings and our sense of reality. Unlike the animals who are born about the content knowledge about their domain of life, the content of how to be that particular animal, how to operate as that particular animal, what things are, how they work, how to handle or cope with things, we are born instinctless. We are born without any instinct. So let me just share the screen for you, the introduction screen here. And when we talk about we are born without any instinct, it does not mean that we are born a blank slate at birth. We are not. We have predispositions, brains wired with certain strengths and weaknesses, and general tendencies to be actualized. Yet, we only have a general impulse or urge within, which we call our drives and needs. So this lack of content information about our urges drives us to find out what they are and how they work. Maslow described this by saying that we have instinctoids, or leftover remnants of instincts, which we experience as urges, impulses, drives, and needs. We don't have any instinct of how to become a human being. However, there is that drive for us to actualize what it is that make us unique and human. Okay, so without proper instincts, we are clueless, innocent, naive, vulnerable, and completely open to learning. At birth, we are completely open to learning because we do not know. Innately, we know nothing, zero. So if we have any instinct, it is the instinct to learn. In fact, we can safely say that learning is the primary human drive. From the beginning, we are driven to learn things, to learn what things mean, what they are, how they work, what they lead to, how to handle them. And this is what we precisely see in the infant and young child, a passion to learn, to explore, to find out, to make sense of things. This drive is also our basic meaning-making drive for self-actualization. And for those of you parents right now, I'm sure you are either going through that phase or you have gone through the phase whereby you just cannot keep up with the questions that our children ask, because they want to know what is that, how it works, what they lead to, how to handle them. So they are not trying to drive us crazy, but they are trying to learn by asking this question. This drive is obviously important because when you don't know what something is, how it works, what it leads to, you don't know what to do. So that's why we have these questions. Should you approach or avoid? Is it safe or dangerous? Can it be eaten or is it poisonous? And observing a young infant or child at work in the business of discovery, they are intensely curious to know more about it. That's why we have to kid-proof our homes so that the things they do get into are safe to play with and put in their mouths. I remember when my son had his first child, to kid-proof their home, they went to the extent, my son and my daughter-in-law went to the extent of buying those, you know, like they look like jigsaw puzzle, but the big plastic things that most nurseries have. They put it all over the floor. They turn the cabinet so that the cabinets cannot be opened. There's nothing sharp. They take things down and they can let loose their son in the living room because they know that they have managed to keep it safe for the son. So this is basically what happened because the child is trying to explore, to learn, because learning is the primary human drive. To respond effectively to the objects, events, happenings, and people in our environment, we have to have some knowledge. We have to make sense of it and a basic understanding of it. This is the first dimension of meaning. And from there, many more follow. Questions that they ask. What is this? What do I call this? How do I classify this? What does it do? Does it do anything? How does it work? What can I use it for? What does this lead to? What results from this? What consequences will occur from interacting with it? What do others think about this? Does it have any interpersonal or social value? If so, what is that? How does one handle or cope with this? Are there ways of handling this that make it dangerous? What are the most effective ways to handle this? So these are the types of questions that go through our mind as we first experience the world, and this is the first dimension of learning. So that's quickly the introduction of meaning making. So I'd like to open up the room for any questions or discussions, any thoughts that comes to mind. So please go ahead. Before that, I'd like to welcome Samson. Good that you are here joining us. So I'd like to open the room. Anyone has got any comments or observations, just go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Marzuki.
Yes, Daniel.
Yes, I'm just wondering, for the first dimension, learning is our primary human drive. And the example that I give just now was the questions that we asked since we were born. And I was just wondering, so is it to do with when we ask questions because we want to know, but we might come to a stage, or some people that I know may come to a stage where they don't ask questions. And is that because they don't want to learn, or they do not know how to ask questions, or yeah, how do I interpret that?
I would say it can be both. It's just like what I notice is that sometimes, because the thing about it is this: we know what we know. However, knowing what we know, we don't know whether what we know is the right thing, and we don't know what we don't know. So what we know is that. So let's say I'm listening to Michael Hall teaching, and I'm going like this, and I understand what he's talking. At the same time, I don't know whether I understand it right. And because of that, there is no question for me to ask because I don't know. The other is, I also don't know what I don't know. And since I don't know them, so I won't ask questions. So that is why part of the learning process that helps in the learning, this is something that I learned from BJ, is that to use our meta program of matching and mismatching. So when we use our meta program of matching, so I know what I know, then to move into the meta program of mismatching. So to be asking the question, why did he say that? What does he mean by that? But my experience, so now I am trying to fully understand him, I begin to think of ways that I may not be agreeing with him. And in that way, it will reveal to me what I don't know. And that's how I can ask questions. So for people who are not aware of that, they may be listening, they may be understanding, but they are blindsided to what they don't know. So that's why they don't ask questions. That could be one reason. And the reason why I give that example, because for years I've been going through that way. When I learned from seminars and all that, oh yes, that's good. Oh yes, I understand that. Then I realized I never had any question. I never had any question. So I begin to ask people who have been asking questions during that seminar. BJ was there. He kept on asking questions. And I said, BJ, can I sit you down for a while? I want to model how you think so that I know. And then only I discovered, oh, that's the part where I did not explore what I didn't know. Since I didn't know, so I did not know how to ask questions. And he gave me this very simple tip that he imagined that he is the one speaking, and the words the speaker is saying is coming through his mouth. So he imagined he's saying all of those. If he feels weird, then he knows that he doesn't know it well. So that was his tip for me.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Guat Ching put in the comment there, some people don't want to ask questions in public because they don't want other people to think that they ask stupid questions. Okay, so that's why Guat Ching, if you remember when you come into the my training room, I always frame things that in my definition, there is only one stupid question. The question that people don't ask. Because if you don't ask the question, who will remain stupid? So that's my frame about things.
Marzuki,
Yes, go ahead, Hashim.
I would like to invite, here she is in now, Dini Norden.
Okay.
I invited her into this this event, and she is our neighbor in York.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Same year?
No, she was in York much later than us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
welcome,
I
Dini.
invited her. Then she, Alhamdulillah, she's in today.
Hello. Nice to meet everyone. It's the first time. So yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I cannot show my face. I'm not ready for it.
That's okay. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good discussion. Sorry, I came in a bit late. I have a bit of technical problems now.
Okay. So glad that you are here. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, anyone else? Chucks, you have something?
Yeah, Marzuki. Because just now we said people ask questions because they want to learn, but I have my experience is reverse. People ask questions because they never learn. Because for example, in terms of work, right, they always ask me, hey, Mr. Kwok, this one how to do? Hey, Mr. Kwok, how to do? That's why every time just refer, they don't want to learn and infer kind of thing. That is the problem. That's why they always ask me, okay, this one how, that one how, kind of thing. That's why they ask it, they don't need to learn, then they can prefer and get the things done, kind of thing. So to me, it's like asking too much questions. Sometimes also it's like, why? Because they don't want to learn. They're lazy to learn, kind of thing. I don't know, I could be wrong.
Okay, okay. So thank you. So that could be another dimension that we can take into account. Okay,
I
thank
see.
you. Thank you. Right. Okay. So let's get to the Guat Ching put there. Why you never think or find the answer by yourself before you ask the question? That's a good point. I've been playing with grasshopper. So because we are separated because of this COVID and all that. So on Telegram, we keep on texting, and she keeps asking me these quizzes. The latest quiz that she asked just a few minutes before we started. You bought me for dinner, but never eat me. What am I? So this kind of games that we play. And what I do is that I know that I can just take that question, put it in Google, and I can find the answer. But I will crack my head in order to find that answer. And if I attempted it, say about 3 times, then I'll ask her for the answer. So the point that Guat Ching put in there is really relevant, because when you face any problem, you need to be looking for the answer, because that process of looking for the answer is the process of discovery, process of meaning making. Because if you were to get the answer without thinking, that may not be the right answer for you. So that's also another aspect that we need to look at. Yeah. And Samson puts in there, at times what I ask seems if I can't communicate well. Yes, that is also an issue, because in terms of our meaning is contextual. Sometimes in order for us to, not to say sometimes, what I do almost all the time when I want to communicate is to create the context and then put in the content. Only then people will understand that. So Samson, strategy that you may want to adopt is the strategy of creating the context before you put in the question or content. For example, we just completed introduction to self-actualization psychology, a 2-day program. I did it over 2 weekends. So what I did for that program was, right at the very beginning, I asked everyone who attended the program, I want you to be thinking of the context where you'll be applying this knowledge as we go through. Because by doing that, your mind will be thinking of how you are going to apply it, and that will allow you to learn at much better level. So context is key for us in creating meaning as well. So that's probably my comment. I don't know whether it answers your question or not. I hope that it will be useful for you. Okay, Samson, thank you. So let's move to the next point. The second point is how meanings work. So let me just again share the screen. In the previous discussion, I end on the note of a few questions that I came up with, because those questions basically are questions that that allows us to look for meanings, questions that we ask, questions that we look for, because those are what drives us to get meanings and meaning making to be at the core of our life. You have to figure things out in order to be able to respond effectively. in our life, we meet with so many different kinds of events, different kinds of situations. So you have to figure things out so that you can respond effectively. As such, meaning refers to a whole range of concepts. So I'm going to share with you a fundamental list of concepts inherent in the idea of meaning. One concept is the concept of identity, answering the question what it is. Next concept is the concept of classification. So when we look at things, classification, the categories of understanding. Next concept is conceptual understanding, how it works. So it gives us the conceptual understanding of how things work. Another category of meaning are causation and correlation. What it causes or leads to. We want to know the causation. Next is coping, interacting, dealing with things. So this is another category of meaning. What to do about it. Another category is the intention, purpose in dealing with it. Things like, what is your intention of being here this evening? So what is your purpose for being here? What do you want to gain for yourself? So that's intention. Another category is the category of values. What is its significance or importance to you? So what is it that you value from that? Another category is the category of source. Where does it come from? And next category, the category of metaphor. What is it like? What can it be compared to? And another category is the category of story. What narrative form can it take? So when we look at things around us, we are having all of these dimensions. We are looking at this. So that's why when you ask questions, we want to reveal the identity, the classifications, the conceptual understanding, causation and correlation, coping, interacting, intention, values. So we want to reveal all of this because once they are revealed, we have a better understanding of what's out there. So when we speak about the search for meaning, we are seeking to figure out any one or all of these things. We are trying to find out any one or all of these things. Meaning making is a phrase for how you make your mental models or maps about things, about the world you live in, the life that you have, the relationships you are embedded in, what you can do. So how does meaning work? Or rather, how do you construct your mental models by which you make sense of the world? So when we talk about the search for meaning, it is about figuring out all of those things about the world that you live in. Okay, so I'm going to pause here and invite you if there are any questions or comments, because this word that we use, meaning making, we use it over and over again frequently. So what specifically does it refer to? It refers to all of those dimensions. We want to know about the world in all of those dimensions, because meaning doesn't exist out there. Meaning exists here. So when we ask all of these questions about what's out there, then we can create it inside here. Okay, so questions or comments? Yes, Hashim?
Yeah, Mazuki. I got one story to share with you to reflect on this. It's quite a heavy stuff that you are talking about. So many things to get in. I was having fun with my kids, One of them is the youngest, about coming to 5 years old,
Mhm.
and they were sleeping outside under the tent, camping over the weekend. So over the phone, I was asking, or yes, it was yesterday when I visited them. How is it that you are enjoying sleeping under the tent? Oh, I love it very much. He said, how many stars do you count? How many stars? There are so many stars, I cannot count. Zillions, he said.
Okay.
And then I said, did you sleep over the night and until early morning? Oh no, I woke up in the middle of the night. And what happened? I ran for my life, he said. So I was startled when he said, I ran for my life. What does that mean to him? You know? So that is the metaphor there.
Mm.
And at that age of, I ran for my life, and then we all laughing, and oh, he said, ran for his life.
Good. Good. How old is he?
Coming to 5.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good. Good. So that is at that first level of meaning. That's interesting. Yeah. And how Hashim has brought it is from the dimension of story. Yeah, from the dimension of story. Good. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Wazuki, I also got a story to share, a pleasant one that I just had with my younger daughter just now. She's 7 years old. So earlier this afternoon, I was doing the Bahasa Malaysia revision with her, learn about kata sendi nama. So I was trying to explain bank. I say, so bank, is it a place or a thing? Then she told me, it's a thing. I said, no, bank is a place. So for place, you need to use the bank, not pada bank. I said, no, how come the bank is a place? It's a thing. I said, why you say bank is a thing? I got my piggy bank. The piggy bank is a thing. Then only I realized, oh yeah, I never brought her to a bank before. She never seen a real bank before.
Okay.
The bank that she knows is a piggy bank.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the story that I wanted to share.
Good. Thank you for sharing that story. And I'm glad that both Hashim and Daniel, you shared stories of little children, because that's the direction that we are going to take our discussion this evening. And what Michael did in the book was he brought in the process of how we create meaning. And when he described the process from birth, how we create meaning, that gives me a greater understanding of how this process of meaning making occurs. So let's move to the third point here. In the beginning, how the beginning of this meaning making. It all begins with an experience. It all begins with an experience. If you do not come loaded with meaning constructs, what we call instincts, human beings don't have instincts. And you have to make sense of the things by constructing mental models, then it begins with the encounters and experiences you have with the world. As you sense the world with your 5 senses, you begin to experience what is out there in the world. Psychologically, this is the first level of meaning making, the unspeakable level that activates and engages your body and neurology. It is unspeakable because you are just experiencing it using your senses. Here, you make connections and associations so that your most primitive level of consciousness is that of being a sensate and sentient being. Sensate and sentient meaning aware of the world and taking cognizance of that world. At this level, which occurs from birth to about 9 months. Your undeveloped brain does not and cannot make and hold internal representations of the world, which is why with little children, with infants, out of sight is out of mind. They cannot hold that internal representation. Developmental psychologists call the ability to bring in the outside world, to bring it in, they call it constancy of representation. You are now able to bring the outside world inside your mind via what you see here on the outside and represent it inside in your mind, your mental constructs. So all of those are presented out there via your senses. You take them in and represent it in your mind. Prior to 9 months, you are not able to do this. That's why the game of peekaboo works so delightfully with infants. We put something between us and the baby and suddenly pop out from behind the barrier, and surprise of surprise. In their mind, oh, you are there. Where did you come from? The baby is surprised, delighted, giggling. The child experienced a cognitive jar. Just don't do that with an adult, because adults have that constancy of representation. That's why they don't laugh or giggle, because they know you are behind there. However, babies, because they cannot hold that image in their mind, the moment there is that barrier in front, it is as if you are gone. Until that age, the baby also stops exploring for something that he can no longer see something. So below the age of 9 months, the baby will not look for something that they cannot see, because what they cannot see to them doesn't exist. After that age, however, the baby will continue to pursue an object or a face, or use his or her hands to try to remove the barrier. Apparently, the baby now has sufficient constancy of representation to know that the object is still there, just hidden from sight. Before 9 months old, they take the information, they will represent it here, and then it just goes away. They cannot hold it there. After 9 months, only then they can take something and put it inside here, and they can hold it. And with this new power of representing something and holding it in mind, something truly fabulous, wonderful, incredible occur. We bring inside ourselves the things that occur outside. We represent the world of sight, sounds, sensations, smells, tastes, and words. We can hold the world that we experience on the outside inside our mind. We hold in mind what we have experienced via our senses on the outside. And holding something in mind is what the word meaning means. Meaning means something that you hold in mind. Now, as it were, you can bring the world inside you. Prior to this, if your parents were to go away, you are struck with fear. But after that stage, you can hold mom and dad in your mind, on the theater of your mind, and comfort yourself doing so, in the sense that, oh, you know they are there, it's just that you cannot see them now. So that's why, especially mothers, before the children are of the age of 9, I keep giving this example, especially mothers, they cannot even go to the toilet without the baby wanting to follow them, because out of sight is out of mind. So only after about the age of 9 that they can hold the image in their mind. This is what I call the constancy in the mind, then that's when we talk about meaning. It's about holding something in the mind at that point. Okay, so questions or comments that you may have.
Hello.
Yes, Samson.
Yeah. So does that mean that what you have or what you've seen, that tells you what you always envisage in life? But again, what of when you dream? At times you dream. What is the connection between what you see in dreams that you've not seen in life, those imagination? So what do you call that?
I'm sorry, I don't quite get your question, Samson.
Okay, let me repeat what I said. I said from what you said is like what you see is what you always imagine in life. You can shift, but you have that understanding of what you've known before. But I'm looking at it when you dream, when you're sleeping and you dream and you imagine something different from what you've known. So what is the difference between the two?
I don't really know how to answer that question because from what I understand, you're asking me is that when we see things we can hold in mind. So when a person has come to the developmental stage, so just now I was referring to the stage of the child. Yeah. So the question that you're asking probably refers to somebody at a more advanced developmental stage, whereby then they can go into creating concepts in the mind. So that's why they can create things that they have never seen before. So that is at another level stage of development. We call it the cognitive stages. We'll be covering that. However, the one that I've been describing to you just now is below the age of 9 months old. A child cannot hold a certain thought in mind, a certain representation in mind. We call it constancy of representation. They cannot hold it before the age of 9 months. Only after that, for some children, then they can hold that. So what it means here is that only when a child is able to hold a representation in mind, that's when the child begins to work on it as meanings, because the meaning of the word meaning is holding things in mind. To be able to manipulate that, to be able to manipulate the images, the representation, that needs that brings you to another level of cognitive developmental level. So those will happen only after the age of 11 to 14 years old. I hope I got you right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay. And do little children dream? Yes. They dream because images that comes into their mind are being replayed in their movie mind. So that's also when they dream. It's just that at the younger age, what they see in mind are what they have experienced through their seeing, hearing, and touch, what they have experienced, because they have not learned how to manipulate that yet. Okay. Good. Any other comments or questions? Are you okay with that? So we are just bringing in bit by bit. This is the beginning of how we human beings create meaning. So let's move to the next point. This next point is on the cognitive stages of making meaning. The first level of meaning is actually before awareness. the unspeakable level, whereby the energies in the world out there impact our senses and neurology. They impact us through our VAKOG, our 5 senses. The problem here, of course, is that you lack awareness of this level. You are being impacted by that, however, you are lacking in awareness. It occurs without your awareness. Your neurology receives it and is aware of it, but you are not. After that comes the representational level. And at first, this is also outside of consciousness. You may be representing something in your mind, but lack awareness of that awareness. And yet, your visual, auditory, associative cortices are working so that you are developing meanings about what is out there, your experiences with those things and activities. Your cognitive unconscious is processing information. So at this level of your mind, you are noticing the world, seeing, hearing, smelling, sensing, tasting, and yet without awareness. So this is the sensory motor stage. From 0 to 2 years, you are sensitive to your environment, taking it in, processing the data that is before you. Next comes the level wherein you become aware of your representations. As the brain develops during childhood, children move into the concrete thinking stage. So the first 2 stages, it is not fully operational yet. You have the sensory motor stage, 0 to 2, and from 2 to 7, you are acquiring the ability to conserve and decenter. You take in information, you can focus on that, and then you begin to take your awareness elsewhere. So that's from 2 to 7. Now, as the brain develops, children move into the concrete thinking stage, wherein they confuse their thoughts with what's real. Or this is something very interesting. So they take in the information and they create a map. That's the territory out there. They create a map inside here. In the concrete thinking stage, for them, the map is the territory. That's what makes them absolutists. This is also what can make their inner life so terrifying, because if they think that they see a monster in the closet, there is a monster in the closet. Yeah. The map is the territory. And our denials do not reassure them. They take their thoughts as real and absolute. The meanings they make are absolute and real to them. But this is at the concrete operational stage. Children at this stage, they are egocentric in that they see the world through the absolutist maps of the world. They are not yet able to step out of their thinking and take another person's perspective. So when they play hide and seek, they may stand still, close their eyes, and because they can't see their playmates, they assume no one can see them. If they see someone hide something in the drawer when another friend is not in the room, when asked if the friend knows where it is, they say, of course, because they know and they can imagine that everyone would not know. I remember my daughter, Shaima, gave us an example when her second child, his name's Muhammad, her grandfather calls him Pocoyo. He was about 5, 6 years old, and they were playing hide and seek. And at that time, Pocoyo was so enamored with Transformers. So when Mama was counting 1, 2, 3, he just dove onto the floor and then made his body like that on the floor. Luckily, Mama understood him, because what he did when he dove onto the floor, he had turned himself into a truck. So in his mind, he's a truck. So luckily, Mama understood him, because when she came into the room, she saw him on the floor, but yet she went, Muhammad, where are you? Muhammad, where are you? And only when he stood up, I'm here, Mama. Oh, there you are. I couldn't see you. Had she went into the room and say, there you are, he would have been furious, because how do you know that's me? I just turned into a truck. So this is this stage whereby the concrete operational stage, their map is the territory. Okay? So at the end of the concrete operational stage, 11 to 14 years, as the brain keeps developing, one's concreteness loosens up. Now the child begins to become free from the concreteness in which he or she has been embedded, free for a wider and more expansive meaning-making sense. At this stage, they begin to realize that the view of the world is not absolute, that others operate according to their own mental models. Now they begin to realize that their thinking is their thinking. And everyone doesn't see, perceive, understand, believe, or think the same way they do. This introduces the time of secrets. They now discover that they can keep secrets from big people, that mom and dad cannot read their minds. They have a private place, and they may test you for a while by lying, because they want to test that hypothesis that they have, that mama doesn't know what I'm thinking. The final cognitive stage, formal abstract thinking, comes with puberty, when there is maturity of the physical brain and the release of hormones that completes the development of the brain. So that's the formal operational stage. Now the young adult can truly step aside from his or her thinking and create abstract meanings about things. So prior to that, it's concrete. Now they can become abstract. Now they can begin to think of new and creative meanings about what's out there. Prior to that, they are just focusing on what's concrete, because what's in their mind is what, according to them, is out there. So these are the stages of cognitive development. That's how we begin to grow in our meaning-making process, step by step. So, questions, comments, go ahead.
Dr. Mᴇᴇ,
Yes.
just now you mentioned the concrete operation stage kind of things, right? Like you said, Muhammad transformed into a truck, like Optimus Prime kind of things, and Mama never, so-called say, hey, I saw you kind of thing. But are we really, let this thing happen where we should let them still stay in their fantasy, like or like ostrich, they dip their head into the soil and say, I see nothing kind of thing, or we should let them know the truth is, okay, you are there, I actually can see you kind of thing. So or we just let them like shock sendiri kind of thing, you continue kind of things. Yeah.
Yes.
That's my question.
Thank you for asking that question. At that point in time, you do not want to go against their, I'll use the word logic, their way of thinking, because their brain has not developed enough for them to understand more complex stuff. So that's why you want to deal it at that particular level. So if they imagine that they are Optimus Prime, then you need to treat them like Optimus Prime, because the map is the territory. If I think I'm Optimus Prime, therefore you must treat me like Optimus Prime. So this is because their brain has developed only up to that level. They have not gone to the next one. If we were to bring concepts from a higher level, they cannot match that. They cannot go there. It's too high for them. Yeah, it's just like
I see.
if I were to use the example of let's say dumbbells. Okay, so I may be able to pick a pair of say 10 kilo dumbbells. I can do that. However, if I give that to a 5-year-old, the 5-year-old will not be able to lift that. So that is the analogy that I can give with respect to bringing in your level of development to a small child.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for asking that question. Any questions? Any other questions? Everyone good?
Yeah, good.
Right. Thank you. So let's move on to the next one. So how do we cope? This is the so as a child, as you when you were a child, developing that brain of yours, that mind of yours, going through stages. At the same time that you are first making meaning with your primitive brain as an infant, and slowly going through the stages of cognitive development. Remember the cognitive stages. Your basic instinct thoughts are creating impulses that are energizing you to figure out what they are and how to cope with them. No wonder the infant and child could not survive without a nurturing community. Caretakers who already understand and know what the child needs, what impulses and needs are driving the developing person, and how to cope with those drives. They experience those drives, those impulses. However, they don't know what it is. My daughter Shaima again was mentioning about Pocoyo. Whenever he felt that feeling, and in our eyes we call them anger, when he starts to shout and scream, he also experienced fear because he's afraid of that, because he can feel it in his body, but he doesn't understand it. So that's why we need to have caretakers, caregivers around the child to facilitate that process, because the brain has not fully developed yet. However, these impulses are in the body. It is much later that you begin to cognitively find out about these basic needs and come to understand them and figure out how to cope with them. The sensation that you experienced, say, when you were 1 year old, the sensation that you experienced in your bladder, you cannot link that to wanting to pee. So that's why little children, we get them to wear nappies, because they have not learned to understand the meaning of that sensation yet. As adults, we know that sensation, that it's time for me to pee. But little children, when they feel those impulses, they don't understand that. So that's why they need to be surrounded by adults who can begin to show them, to teach them, to guide them. So even before you are ready or able to create meanings that will be accurate, useful, and practical, you are thrown into the human dilemma of feeling and experiencing your needs and trying to figure them out. What are these impulses? Is this hunger, fear, excitement, wonder, play? What should I do to quiet these inner urges? So that's why little children, before they are able to communicate with you, they cry whenever they feel anything, whether they are restless, whether they are hot or too cold or hungry, they cry because they don't know what those impulses are. At this point, the two models of human development emerge: Maslow's hierarchy of needs and Piaget's cognitive development stages. So Piaget's cognitive development stages, I showed it to you just now. And now we are moving into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The first thing you need to create meaning about are your internal needs and your external life context. This enables you to move through the hierarchy of needs from all of your survival needs, then safety needs, then social love and affection needs, and your self needs. So let's go through a brief overview of the hierarchy of needs from the perspective of meaning making. Survival needs. From the perspective of meaning making, you are asking yourself the question, what is happening? And if somebody or something or an animal comes in front of you, the meaning that you're searching for, is this thing or person or animal, event, something that supports my life, or does it threaten life? First, you try to make sense of the various aspects of survival: air, water, food, sleep, health, money. So these are the survival needs. So as a child, you were figuring out all of these things from the perspective of survival. That's when you put the meaning. So for example, a child maybe doesn't know that he cannot breathe underwater. First time goes into the pool and he takes a breath and water goes into the nose and he'll be stunned. And then he puts on the meaning, oh, water shouldn't go into my nose because I cannot breathe if water goes into my nose. So meaning making from the survival needs. Then moving into the safety needs. So you need to figure out, is this person or thing safe or dangerous? Is it friend or foe? Is this good for me, neutral, or is it poisonous? Will this create stability and order in my life, or chaos and confusion? Can I be safe enough to relax, to learn, and to explore? Do I have some control in life? So those are the questions that comes through your mind that creates the meaning from the perspective of the safety needs. Moving on to the next level, the social needs. So the questions that you ask: is this person nurturing and caring, or hurtful and dangerous? Can this person provide love and affection for me? Are my needs important or unimportant to this person? Will I feel connected, bonded, close, and loved? This is at the level of social needs. Finding meaning in terms of social needs. Then we have the self needs. You ask the question, do I count? Am I important? Do I have any value as a person? What can I do that is unique and special with me? Where do I stand in the community of people among whom I live? Do they believe in me or not? So those are the questions that drive us, that allows us to create meaning from the perspective of the hierarchy of needs. And later in life, we begin to explore the self actualization needs. However, what I would like to reiterate here, as you, as the child, as the infant going through the developmental stages, the cognitive developmental stages, you are also being bombarded by the drives with respect to the survival, safety, social, and self needs. So that is why a young child coming into this world, they need constant caregivers, because at a time when they have not learned how to create accurate meanings yet, that is where the caregivers needs to give them those meanings. Yeah, caregivers being able to say to the child, I'm sorry you can't play with this knife because a knife is sharp, it can hurt you. Because the cognitive developmental level has not come to that stage yet. However, certain things are driving them to explore. These needs, which you experience as inner impulses driving you to gratify them, are governed by the principle of deficiency. I'm referring to the survival needs, the safety needs, social needs, and self needs. They are driven by deficiency. You experience them when you need them, when you lack them, when you have a deficiency of the things that would gratify that need. The more the deficiency, the greater the intensity of the impulse and urge. For example, the need for food. The more hungry you are, meaning to say the less food that you have, the more hungry you feel, the greater is the impulse and the urge to eat. In fact, as the deficiency grows in intensity, you can become absolutely desperate. And that is when you are likely to do desperate things that can hurt yourself and others. So that is why, as I mentioned earlier, little children, they need those caregivers in order to help to fulfill their needs, because their meaning-making process has not fully developed because of their cognitive developmental process is still ongoing. And yet, when the needs are truly gratified, the urge and impulse simply goes away. So that is why parents, when your child cries and you notice, oh, this child may be hungry, you feed the child food. Once the child is able to eat the food, the child stops crying. And you then typically experience a post-gratification forgetting. So once you are gratified, you forget that you felt that need before and how desperate you are until that need comes again. So that's why we call it the principle of deficiency. It's driven by deficiency. And so this is where, when we talk about creating the in the context of meaning making, as the child experiences the urge to fulfill those needs, because their developmental model has developmental stage has not progressed yet, that's when the caregivers needs to provide them with the needs, because they have not learned how to create meanings for those yet. So let's just stop there with respect to the cognitive coping, how we cope with our needs in the context of identifying, in the context of understanding what they are, because we don't have the cognitive level of making meanings yet. However, we are faced with those urges. So that is why there is that need for a community around the child to help the child fulfill the urges at the point when they have not developed the ability to create accurate meanings yet. Otherwise, when they are experiencing those urges, they may create, and those urges are not being met, they may create meanings that are hurtful, that are harmful, that it can even be toxic for the rest of their lives. Okay, so I'd like to open up the discussion. This is where I would just like to stop our discussion for this evening, because there is quite a bit that we have discussed for this evening, looking at it from the cognitive developmental level and also from the urges and drives, how we are creating meaning. So go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, Mr. Masuki, I would like to ask the hierarchy of need. I can relate to the one conversation that I had with my elder daughter. She's 10 years old. So I guess she's in this cognitive coping stage, because she talked to me about the issues that she had, the impression that she had with her friends not replying her WhatsApp when she texted them. So does it mean that they are not my friend anymore? They don't like to talk to me anymore. Yeah, so of course I explained to her different people have different way of communication and things like that. So because she's 10, so is this the cognitive coping that we are talking about?
Yes, we are talking exactly that, because at 10 years old, she has those urges of the drive for love and belonging, yeah, from friends, that drive of love and belonging. At the same time, at the age of 10, and I presume her friends are also at that age, they are still at the concrete cognitive stage, at the concrete operational level yet. So she and they have not come to the concept of doing things for friends for the sake of friends, because they are still at the stage of being very egocentric. At the same time, she has now started moving into being other-centric. Then she may be thinking about my friends not wanting to be friends with me. It's just that she and her friends are not yet thinking about others at that point. They are thinking about themselves. So they have not come to that stage yet. So this is the part whereby you, as the mother, needs to fill in the gaps. Just like we said, it's possible that they are busy with something else. It's not that they are not thinking about you. And by using specific example of, you remember that the other day when you were busy doing up that project you want to finish off, and for the whole week you're working on that, and did you call any of your friends during that week? Is it that you are not friends with them anymore, or you were, well, you just were not able to think about them because you're focused on doing that? So these things will allow her to have the different perspective of looking at things. So you need to fill in the gaps, because her cognitive developmental level has not allowed her to reach to that level of thinking that you have brought in there. So that's why when we bring in these two models, the Piaget's cognitive development model, and also Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So with respect to the hierarchy of needs, they have those urges. It is there. It is driving them. This drive for wanting to have friends, this drive wanting to be safe. All of those drives are there, but they have not yet developed in terms of the cognitive level. They have not yet developed. So this is where the caregivers, the primary caregiver, need to facilitate that, so that they are able to cope with it cognitively, because their cognitive level has not gone to the level where they are able to do that by themselves. So that's where they need the help, the support from you at that time. Make sense?
All right. Yep. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. So, any questions or comments from everyone else?
Hello.
Yes, Samson.
Yeah, regarding the Maslow hierarchy of needs, is it possible for one to attain all? Or at a certain time, you work with one after the other?
Yes, of course. It's just that the 4 lower level needs, you need to gratify them on a daily basis. It needs to be gratified on a daily basis. It's just that since it's deficiency driven, so what it means is that, for example, if I'm feeling hungry right now, so I'm driven to eat. So I'm not driven to have a meeting with, say, Dr. Anwar right now, because I'm hungry. So I can just go and eat, and that goes away. Then I go and have a meeting with Dr. Anwar, because that fulfills my need for association, love and belonging. So I'll have a discussion with him, and that's perfectly fine, because what happens is that each of the level of needs, once it is gratified, that need goes away. So that's why in self-actualization psychology, the skill is how to gratify your needs succinctly, so that you don't have to spend so much time fulfilling that particular need, and you can go beyond into the self-actualization need. For example, the need for food, knowing that food is just fuel for my body, and my family also thinks in the same way. I'm not choosy about food. So this evening, my daughter started cooking chicken for us. However, I noticed the time is coming close to 7 already. I need to get ready for the class, and since my wife knows that I take food in order just to fill my stomach, not for the sake of enjoying the food, she says, "Okay, I'll cook some eggs for you, because eggs are much faster rather than waiting for the chicken." So I said, okay. She cooked the eggs, and I ate the eggs with rice, and enough. I don't need to eat I don't need to wait for the chicken, because my daughter has prepared it so nicely. I don't need to wait for that, all that, because I know that it's just fuel for the body. That's all. So once we understand the skill of gratifying it succinctly without any over meaning. So this is where the meaning making can go haywire. Over meaning about food, then we can gratify our needs very easily. The physiological need, the safety need, the love and belonging, the esteem needs, gratify them succinctly, and we have more energy and focus when we can go above those into the self-actualization need. So that's why some people, when they are stuck with that meaning making, they are using an infantile meaning making about the hierarchy of needs. They can get stuck in that jungle down there. Eggs and rice is not good. I have to have the chicken. So that's when they can get stuck inside that. And they may take a lot of time doing that. And you notice, yeah, giving the example of food, there are people who insist that they must eat this in the morning, this in the afternoon, this, and they spend hours and hours just taking care of the food that they need to eat. So that's an example of when people don't know how to gratify their needs succinctly. Does that answer your question, Samson? Okay, anyone else has got any questions or comments? What I would like to do is just to summarize what we have covered, because I mentioned to you that there were altogether 15 items. So I decided to cover just 5 for this evening. So I went into the introduction of meaning making, how meaning works, and in the beginning, how we begin to make meanings. Then we went into the cognitive stages of making meaning, and also cognitive coping with those meanings. What we have not covered, I hope maybe next month we can cover, moving on still with this topic of meaning making, a few more topics: stimulus response meaning making, referential thinking, representational thinking as first level reference, external reference becoming internal, linguistic meaning making, and appreciating how you create meaning. So those will be going in deeper, in greater depth. However, I'll be thinking about whether we'll be doing those, or maybe we'll move on to the next topic. So it depends for next month. However, when we talk about meaning making, there is so much more depth that we can go into. Yeah. So that's basically what we have for this evening. Just to give you an idea, when we talk about meaning making, and one of the things that I keep mentioning is that meaning making doesn't have quality control. So that's why I hope that through understanding how we start to make meaning, the first level meaning, and then as we go through the cognitive developmental stages, and we are bombarded by our drives, our needs there, those are what shape us, the way that we create meaning. So we talk about when there is that community surrounding us when we were a child, helping us shape, create meanings that are healthy. Then we grow up as adults, running around our world with healthy meanings in our map of the world. However, without those, then we'll be moving about with meanings that can be unhealthy and also toxic, and we can see this in the people around us. So that's basically what we have covered this evening, to go through that developmental process. I hope that next month we can bring in the additional layers of how we create meaning. Yeah. So it is not something that just comes like that. It is through our developmental process that we learn how to make meanings, whether they are useful or not useful for us. Okay. So before we end, I'd just like to invite each and every one of you. Let me hear your comments about what we have covered this evening. So I'd like to invite Samson first. Go ahead, Samson. Are there anything that you'd like to comment before we end the session today?
Mᴇᴜᴇ, for giving me this opportunity. Since the day I joined your Zoom meeting and presentation, it has been really impactful. And from what I've learned is that in life, you get to learn daily from even the stories I had from some of the participants today. It's really added some value to me, and I will continue to take that as a learning skills. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samson. And moving over to Dini, go ahead. May I hear your comments?
Hello, yes. Okay, so this is personally a very informative session for me, and it's very interesting to learn on how the younger minds tend to create meaning for themselves, because personally, I think it's best that we teach the children to have their own understanding rather than we force our own understanding on them, so they can perceive life and they can start to have their own thinking and their identity. So it's easier for us to teach them the stranger danger stuff, so they stimulates their brains and they can get it faster. So yeah, I really love that you just because children are very intelligent. If you just prompt them to think, they can think a lot better than us, and it's a very good stage for us to shape them on the correct path. And yeah, very, very informative session. I'm glad I joined. Thank you.
Thank you, Dini, for joining us. And next, Guat Cheng, over to you.
Thank you, Marzuki. Start to create a good meaning and eliminate the unresourceful meaning.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Guat Cheng. Chek Siu, go ahead.
Maybe what I learned can be like, okay, how to make sense of the meaning of the other person, not my own meaning from what I see. Is that I always say the map is the territory, but most of the time the map is not the territory kind of things, you see. So that's why we need to just like just now my WhatsApp group sent me a photo. At the first glance, I thought it's fried chicken, but actually it's a bunch of brown color dog puppy kind of things. Yeah, so that is like
Okay.
yeah.
Thank
And also,
you.
Dr. Marzuki, I want to ask you a question back to the 7 years old, the Muhammad thingy, when he transformed into a truck. So we say we have to make ourselves down to his level to understand that he can transform a truck kind of thing. But is it good for us to like so-called membongkarkan dia? I know you are not a truck because I have the superpower, like to play together with him kind of thing, or we just let it be like you are a truck kind of thing and I cannot see you. How?
Thank you. So
Yeah.
this is where when we talk about communicating, most important in any communication is rapport. And rapport is a part of rapport is matching, pacing. We call it pacing. So let's say let's say he imagined himself as a truck, and you want to bring him to the next level, whereby yes, that is his imagination, that it is not a reality. Yeah. So if you were to straight away mismatch by saying you are not a truck, you are just a boy sitting on the floor, that creates too much difference in maths that it can be very the word that I can use is very traumatic. It can be traumatic for the child because your world has suddenly been exploded in that sense. So that's why you need to bring your thinking level to his level first to match it. Wow, you are able to turn into truck. That's wonderful. I'm so happy that now you can imagine all of those. It's just that you know, right? That is your imagination. So being able to bring that, and different children will take different. I would say different processes and different times and ages to be able to recognize that, because some children, they are stuck in that concrete stage for quite some time until 5, 7, whereby they still cannot differentiate between their map of the world and territory. As far as they are concerned, their map of the world is the territory, and yet some children, if I can give an example of Grasshopper, when she was about 3 years old, she was already able to detect the difference between fantasy and reality. She's she's play acting as a I can't remember, as a singer or something. She's play acting that, and I just went with her and play acted with her, and she looked at me surprised. She carried on with that, and then she said to me, "But that is just make believe, grandfather." And I'm, oh wow, 3 years old. She's able to differentiate between make believe and reality. So different children will develop differently. So if you have a child that has at that concrete stage, they are very concrete, very fixed in that sense. So you jar their reality all of a sudden, it can be traumatic for them. So that part of pacing and leading, gradually seeding in, it may take some time. However, you can also do that, but it is not, I would say, advisable to bring in your level of understanding and force it on the child because they are not yet ready for that.
That's what made me recall when my son was a small kid at the time. He always, first he played with me, but I put my hand like that. So he asked me to close it. Because then I said, why? He said, because I eat already, so supposed to be disappear. So that's why from there, I mean, about 1 year plus kind of thing, he keep on playing this kind of kind of thing. So that's why, is it something like that?
Yeah. So you need to go along. You need to go along with that. Thank you.
You made me recall that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chok Chiu. Mark, go ahead.
I totally enjoyed the session again. Few things that struck my mind, that I was dealing a lot of children who are in age category of 11 to 4 in the formal stage of cognitive development. And it's very interesting, as you said, after puberty and things like that. Normally, a lot of parents tend to disconnect with them at this stage, and then to say and complain that they're rebellious, tend that they're rude, tend to say that they argue back, they have their own thought of mind, and so forth. And very few of them actually do realize that at this age is a really important age for them to be able to express themselves as well. So, and a lot of parents shut them down during this age because of too much questions or maybe arguments and a change of character, puberty, hormones, and so forth. So back at the pool, I think these are tender, very important years before adulthood. And I think, by learning NLP, I hope to be able to assist them and the parents through this stage. Yeah. So, and of course, application towards my own kids and family as well. So thanks again for the session tonight. Totally enjoyed it. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I was just wondering when you open up again, if any of the 6-7-year-olds were to come to you and say to you that because they've just watched the Olympics and they come to you, I'm going to win the Olympics gold medal.
I hope actually. Marilyn was like that. Actually, Marilyn, when she was like 8, she had that. I had a few swimmers as well at a very young age, 8, 9, 10. They come to the pool. Majority of them who have such high dreams and goals at that point in time. Some of them really achieve a high level of swimming. Maybe even not the Olympics, but Asian Games, Commonwealth Games. At least some in that level. Yeah, but I do hope that they'll inspire them. I do actually make them watch the Paralympics because personally I feel that swimmers are entitled. They're very entitled, especially now with this generation and watching the Paralympics, I think give them a little bit more. I would say a little bit more humane, a little bit more humility, a little bit more understanding that. Even with the disability, they can still achieve dreams, I use that a lot in my examples because we do have a lot of disabled children in Super Sharks, and they come in the wheelchairs and things like that, and it never stops them from from training, from competing, and I think that's for me, that's a better example to use for kids, because now seriously at my pool there's so many privileged kids, too privileged. Yeah. Anyway, thanks. Yeah, and I'm guilty about the food one, because I'm a food chaser. I really love food, and I tend to go out of the way for food. Yeah, sometimes we just go to Penang just for food, food. Yeah, so I'm one of those food chasers, guilty.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Hashim. Go ahead, Hashim.
This is a very wonderful, meaningful, lifelong learning, Mazuki. And I want to share meanings has different, words has different meanings to different people. Like those days, they have this, what they call a remove class. Yeah, you are in a Malay stream, then you want to go into English, then you go for 1 year remove class. And my friend was talking about this language. The teacher was asking, what does this mean? And the teacher said, the car brakes. So the class said, kereta pecah, cikgu. Because that's what they know, brakes means is broken. and I have my teammate, he is from Poland and he stays in Warsaw. And his name is Jacob, and his second name is Kuba. When I speak to my another partner in Japan, I said I prefer to speak to him as Jacob, because when I say Kuba, I keep smiling to myself. I said, why? He asked me, why is that so, Hashim? Because to me, when I speak Kuba, the water buffaloes come to my mind. Oh yeah, okay, understand. So even adults, we represent things in our mind for that language and for that meaning. So sometimes people get upset because we say, oh, this is what it means to me, but it is my language. Thank you.
Right, thank you. That's the linguistic meaning making. Hopefully we'll talk about that next month. And over to you, Dr. Anwar. Your mic is still muted.
It's a common problem here, switching on the microphone. Thank you, Mazuki. Another good session today. I learned a lot from on meaning making. Interesting. I just want to add, or a question actually. When you say meaning making is still at the conceptual stage. We haven't talked about behaviors, right?
Not yet. Not yet.
So when I say meaning making is still a concept, it's a conceptual stage, not the behavior stage.
Meaning is what we hold in mind about what's out there. It could be we are making meaning of a certain a person's behavior, but we've not gone into how the meaning goes into the behavior yet. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Anwar. And last but not least, Danielle, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mazuki, for tonight's session. I've learned a lot. I think the dimension of the meaning, I go through the 10 questions, like identity, what is it? Yeah, I think that is new to me, because previously my understanding about meaning making is just, what do you mean by that? But now I can really see deeper. The meaning have different dimensions, and also about the cognitive development stage for young children, how they develop to make meaning. That is also useful for me to learn how my kids make meaning as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. So everyone, it has been a pleasure for me to be meeting all of you this evening. I hope that you've gained something that's useful for yourself. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. So with that, I wish you all the best. Keep safe and stay healthy, and look forward to seeing you again. So good night and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Salam.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.